Hi there, Andrew Crute here. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video on where do you buy precious metals. Before we get into the slides and go through the presentation I've come up with and the information, I just want to, cover a couple of things around why I've put this together for you and the purpose, alleviate some of your fears maybe about precious metals, and just a couple of other little housekeeping things to make it as smooth a transition into your journey into the precious metals market and acquisition of these beautiful items that you might say. So let's get straight into it. So why am I doing this? Well, there's a lot of mysteriousness or mystery about precious metals, and especially I guess around the acquisition and adding them to your asset column. There's a bit of stigma in the fact that if you buy gold and silver, really they're not a cash producing asset, so it's more, they provide more of a hedge against the fall in the value of the dollar or pound or euro or whatever your other assets are held in. They provide that kind of long-term stability, and if you go back over even just the last 30 or 40 years, you can see that the value of, let's take gold for example, has really retained its value or actually increased in its value on what an ounce of gold will buy compared to the dollar. So say for example you'd kept $100 bill or a note of 100 denomination, whatever your currency is, in the last 30 or 40 years, if you just kept that note, what you were able to buy with it 30 or 40 years ago and what you can buy with it today is drastically different, and today is a lot less. Now if you'd had $100, pounds, whatever, in in gold, from 30 or 40 years ago, and 40 years ago you could have bought almost 3 ounces of gold for that amount, and you had that 3 ounces of gold, let's say today, you could buy a lot more than what you could have bought with $100 or 3 ounces of gold back in the 1970s, for example. So it just shows that over the last 30 or 40 years, and that's just that short time period, if you go back 100 years it's even more, that gold and, in the same respect, silver to an extent, have kept their purchasing power despite the inflation of prices and the rising value of those items and everything else. So that's why a lot of people recommend a certain percentage of your assets should be held in precious metals, whether gold or silver. We'll get into that in a little bit. But that's really why I'm doing this series, is to try and break it down, as I've called it here, a layman's explanation. If you're not sure what layman's means, it basically means someone that's not an expert, not authorized, so to speak. It's just, I'm just someone that's very passionate about the precious metals market. I see the value in it. My wife Kelly and I really do see the value in precious metals as a way of protecting ourselves against inflation and the devaluing of the currency through quantitative easing and a whole lot of things that are going on around the world. So that's why we're doing this series. And this series is part of a newsletter that we put out each week. So this is an exclusive video for that initially, and then will be released publicly later on. So depending how you've seen this, if you want to get onto our newsletter and learn more, you've got the opportunity. If you're already on it, thank you for subscribing and watching this video. So nothing scary here. This is all about education, about just providing insight into getting yourself a bit more detail about what's going on, so you can be prepared and make informed decisions. So it's all about educating yourself. Don't take my word as gospel, please. Find people that may have a lot more experience and knowledge than me. I can suggest some names while we go through, but a lot of my information comes from them. I'm just trying to put it out as an everyday guy, sharing this information in hopefully a very succinct and simplified and easy to understand method. Okay, so I've touched a bit on why precious metals, a bit of the history of the value and stuff like that. I've thought about, while I was preparing for this, there might be actually a really good series to do, is the history of gold and silver, not just in the last 30 or 40 years, but we're talking the last thousands of years. We could go all the way back to the Greek Empire and see how gold and silver has been used as money and currency over that period of time, and how fiat currencies have risen and fallen in that same period of time, and how gold and silver has always come back to be the favorite, so to speak, in quotation marks. So that's something we'll put together and release in the next after this series. But there is a very strong reason why precious metals are always reverted to, and the intrinsic value, and the there's almost an emotional attachment. If you think about, if you buy a ring or earrings or something for someone, you want to buy gold earrings, and not just 14 karat. You might be trying to buy 18 karat gold, or a higher value of gold, because there's an understanding in all cultures of the world that value of that precious shiny yellow metal, and silver to an extent as well. Quick disclaimer, we'll cover the legal stuff like I've got down the bottom there. This isn't an investment advice. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a whole lot of gold or silver or anything like that. That's a decision you need to make. I'm sharing this from my own personal experiences, research and understanding of the global economy and the importance of precious metals. So, as with any investment or financial decision, make informed decisions, educate yourself. Don't rely on financial planners or the experts, so to speak. And if you've got a broker who's doing work for you, ask what they're investing in. If they're not investing in anything, maybe shop around and find someone who is, because there's the running joke. Robert Kiyosaki says, they're called brokers because usually that's what they are. They're broke. So it's just a job to them for most of them. Not all. There are some very successful brokers that are in real estate or trade paper assets or whatever it is, that are actively investing themselves. But really, why are you going to take advice from someone that's not doing it themselves? Ask where they're investing their money, and that's a good sure way to find out if the person you're talking to actually is not just educating themselves possibly, but also putting it into practice. Okay, so about to get started. Sorry for the long introduction, but really wanted to lay some foundation work there, and we'll go through the slides. Not a whole lot of slides here. This is a 3-part series, guys. So we'll go into how it's all going to break down a little bit. But let's get started. Okay, so the first slide, if our slide thing will work here. There we go. All right. So, simple question. Why do you want to buy gold and silver? Well, first thing, I've already talked about a little bit. What's the big deal about precious metals? Well, I already touched on this quite a bit, so I'm not going to beat a dead horse, so to speak. Gold and silver especially, and you could bring in palladium and a few other precious metals as well. But gold and silver have an intrinsic value that dates back, 3,000 odd years at least, in terms of being used as a currency or money in societies. You've got the Greeks, you've got the Romans, and everyone since has used a form of gold or silver to exchange and form a currency within that society. So that is a big part of it. There's also the finite nature of these metals. There's only X amount of gold that's ever been mined from the earth, same with silver, and it's also that we know there's only a finite amount available. So the fact is, once we've dug it all up, what's there is there. We can't make more, no matter how much we want to. And silver is a real good example. Just to quickly divert, the use of silver, not just in jewelry or in silver bars or as money or whatever like that, is one of the most highly used metals in electronics. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. So your mobile phones, your TVs, your laptops, everything has small quantities of silver in it. So just think about the number of new mobile phones produced each year, the new laptops. Every time you throw away your old laptop, your tablet, your phone, whatever, all that goes into the landfill, and that all contains small amounts of silver. So silver as an industrial resource is highly valued, and therefore will be used up potentially faster than gold. And there is predictions, and I don't want to get too far down this path, that the value of silver could almost one day equal gold. And that's very interesting considering the historical trends of the value ratio between gold and silver. Okay, so do precious metals really hold their value? Well, kind of already touched on this as well. Go back 30 or 40 years and you can see that 1 ounce of gold, what it would have bought in 1970s and what it'll buy today, is equal or more than what it would have bought back then. So that's really, really exciting to look historically that gold and silver will hold their value. And finally, how much should I really have as a minimum? This is a personal decision. A lot of the experts, and I'll put that in quotation marks with my fingers here, usually recommend between 5 and 10% of your assets should be held in precious metals. That obviously will vary from person to person, and whether you put 5% in gold, 5% in silver, 80% in gold, 20% silver, or the other way around. That's really a decision you need to make, and it's also a decision you need to make in terms of your current financial status. So if you don't have a large amount of fluid assets and you need to, you can only start small, maybe silver is a much better place, because as of time of recording this in middle of February 2014, silver's sitting around that $20-21 an ounce spot price. So it's a lot cheaper to buy an ounce or 5 or 10 ounces of silver than it is gold, which is creeping up towards that $1,300 an ounce mark. So we'll get into how you might be able to buy smaller quantities of gold in the next video, which I'm really excited about to share with you guys, because that's the focus that Kelly and I have, is the second video method of part 2's method of buying gold. But today we're focusing on some others. So so minimum 5 or 10% is what people recommend. As I said before, it's not a cash producing asset 99% of the time. So really it's hedging against the devaluation of your other assets in terms of being held in dollars, pounds, euros, or whatever. And until that time of its appreciation, you can't really convert it back into a easy cash producing asset, or it's not a cash producing asset, I should say. Okay, so what options do you really have? Okay, so I've just brainstormed a simple list. It's not a total list because we don't have that long, but these are basically where you're looking at you'd be able to buy gold. So you've got coin dealers. You've all seen those shops down in strip malls and shopping centers and everywhere else that they got coin shop or something similar above their door. You got specialized bullion dealers. So these are stores that typically will be in larger cities or larger metropolitan areas, and their specialty is just gold and silver coins and bars and stuff like that. They'll typically deal with people that are serious investors, will be not dealing in what they call pneumatic coins, which are the kind of special limited edition coins that are released by companies and mints, and we'll get into that bit in a bit. But all they do is buy and sell gold and silver or precious metals. Government mints. So here in Australia, for example, the Perth Mint is you can buy directly from them. We'll get into that in a little bit. So they're those three. You got online specialists. So with the rise of the internet, especially over the last 10 years, 15 years, you've got online websites that specialize in just selling gold and silver, especially. Obviously there's some other precious metals there, but gold and silver are the primary two. Obviously we'll get into those as well. And those last two there, pawn shops and jewelry stores. Pawn shops are probably more close to your coin dealer style, but they will do a whole lot more than just buy and sell gold and silver. You can pretty much whatever you want to take in, you can either pawn or sell or buy or whatever. And then jewelry stores. Now, jewelry stores are obviously you're buying it as a piece of jewelry, and that brings a whole lot of other factors into it as well. Okay, so we're going to look at this list in 3 sections to kind of break it down, because that would be a lot to cover in one session. So if we break it down, so part 1, what we're going to cover today, we're going to go over the traditional, what I'm calling traditional purchasing methods. So that's your first 3, your coin dealers, your government mints, and your specialized bullion dealers. So we're going to go through those 3 today and break those down. So before the internet, these are kind of the options you would have had. Part 2, we're going to go through the online options, and this is how Kelly and I are buying our gold, and I kind of alluded earlier about the option and possibility of buying gold in smaller quantities than 1 ounce because of its value, and we'll touch on that in the next video. And then finally, part 3, we'll focus on the pawn shops and jewelry stores. Look, I can't tell you not to go and buy stuff there, of course, that's your decision. But pawn shops, like I said, are more like your coin dealers maybe, but have a lot more. They may not be experts. I've heard of stories of pawn shops paying way too much for certain items just because they don't understand it completely, because the people running those stores are not always experts in precious metals. And jewelry stores, obviously, you could go in and buy 24 karat gold and wear it as necklaces around your neck, and a lot of societies and cultures around the world, that's how they protect their wealth and store their wealth, is in gold jewelry. But most of the gold or silver you purchase within these stores will be nowhere near currency grade, which is 999.9, or that high, ultra high purity. And if you're going to have store precious metals, and especially if you're going to store it as an investment, you have to be storing pure, and 999.9 is as pure as it gets. Nothing's 100% in metals. There's always some impurity, but you want to get to it as pure as you can to be recognized by other people when you go to dispose of it, so to speak, and turn it back into cash or whatever, or purchase stuff with it. Okay, so let's get started with today's lessons and focus on that. Okay, so coin dealers. Okay, so we've got a bit of a image there of what one of these shops might look like. You got We Buy Gold in the window. It says American Coin and Stamp Company at the top. Just an image I got off Google Images, so nothing, not promoting any particular stores. Wouldn't have a clue where this is, but you can kind of see there what these shop fronts might look like. So they'll typically advertise that they'll buy it from you. Gold and silver. Gold is usually always the big selling point for them, and they will have that advertised in neon or whatever all over the shop front. They will have the option of you can buy it from them as well, and this is where knowing how the spot price works and everything else is really important, because there's going to be a buy price and going to be a sell price within these stores, because that's how they make their money. They've got to pay rent for that shop front, so the spot price is how they are able to cover that rent, or the buy and sell price spread there. Okay, so they may offer what we call pneumatic coins. These are coins that like this year is the year of the horse for the China lunar calendar in Chinese culture and everything. So this year I'm sure there's going to be pneumatic coins that have year of the horse, and people will usually pay a premium for those. Whatever reason, they will cost you more than what a minted coin, for example an American Eagle silver coin or a gold coin will cost you, which still has design on it, but they will cost you more because of their supposed intrinsic and almost emotional attachment. So pneumatic coins, again, not going to tell you what to do, but if you don't want to be paying a premium because what you've hold as an emotional attachment to that coin, other people may not. So they may only see the value of the actual gold or silver in it and not be willing to pay you that premium if you want to dispose of these coins or bars in the future. So it's really good to minimize your pneumatic coin part of your assets, just because the intrinsic or the emotional value that you've put on that, or someone's put on that to charge that higher amount, may not be worth what you think it is, and to someone else. So you may lose some money in that fact. And finally, gold and silver is just part of their business. They may not be completely specialized in it, as you can see from the image I've got there. They also do stamps, so stamp collecting and stuff like that. So there's a whole bit of a range of things that these guys do, which means their expertise and knowledge may not be as complete as some of the other methods. Okay, so, and by that I mean these specialized bullion dealers especially. Okay, so these guys, you're not really going to find photos of them. This is, I did search. I just got a thing. Sydney Gold Traders is one of the companies. Obviously, I live here in Australia, so this is one of the companies that's based in Sydney. I know there are some in Sydney, and they're usually in office buildings on certain floor, and they're behind secured doors, and it's a bit like some of those movies you see where they're back in secured behind secured doors that you have to almost have a password to get into. So these guys, like I said, discreet location, much higher security because of the types of products they're dealing with. They will be focusing on just buying and selling precious metals, and in usually larger quantities than what a coin dealer will do. And finally, they should have new products, like I said here, directly from government mint, so that you know what you're getting, what you're buying is what it is. So it should be certified. They should be part of precious metals associations and have all the authentication paperwork and everything to provide authenticity for what you're buying. And that's a really important thing as well, is to make sure that what you're buying is what you're told you're being sold. So either you're able to certify it through doing some research about the different products that are available, having this like an LBMA certification from the refinery, being able to trace where the product came from. That's a really important thing to just keep in consideration, do some research about, and be aware of as you're buying precious metals, because there'd be nothing worse than saying you're buying this and actually being given something else. Okay. The final one we're going to touch on today is government mints. Why not just go straight to the source, right? So that's a picture of the Perth Mint over in Western Australia. That's where all gold and silver bars and everything for Australia are produced. Perth and Western Australia in particular is one of our largest mining states, so it kind of makes sense for the raw materials to be kept over there and converted into coins and bars. Okay, so orders can be discounted. Sometimes you cut out that middleman, so to speak, and if you're buying in larger quantities, it can be beneficial to go straight to the source as well. And if you're not worried about what it actually looks like, you're just wanting the actual metal, then usually buying especially let's talk about silver, for example, because affordability wise it makes sense. Buying a 10 or even 100 ounce silver bar that doesn't have anything except maybe the mint stamp and the weight on it really would make a lot more sense than buying 10 or 100 individual coins, because if you start doing the math on the ounce price spread out over those, you can save yourself quite a bit of money. Or if you want to look at it another way, you end up paying for 98 ounces and get 100 ounces, so you're getting a couple of ounces free if you want to look at it that way. But you want to have a variety of weights, so to speak. So you want to have some coins, 1 ounce coins. You want to have some 10 ounce bars, 100 ounce bars in silver. In gold, you want to have some 1 ounce coins, maybe some 5 ounce bars if you can, when you get, increase your asset column, but you also maybe want some half ounce or some 1, 2.5 or 5 gram bars. So and we'll get into the whole reason why later, but you want to have some spread so that if you do need to convert some of your precious metals into cash, so to speak, you're maybe not breaking down large quantities for small when you need just small amounts. Okay. And finally, if you're buying from the mint, obviously, like I said, you're cutting out that middle person, and the authenticity is confirmed because you're buying straight from that source. Whether you're either walking up to the mint yourself or ordering from their website or whatever, but do your research again. Be diligent. Don't leave yourself susceptible to possible scams or something like that. There is a lot of shady people out there, and precious metals can bring out the worst in people, unfortunately. So definitely do your research. I can't enforce or reinforce that enough. Okay, so I guess where to from here? Okay, so we've got 2 more parts coming to this series. Thank you for your time listening to this this video and watching it. Hopefully it's made some sense. So 2 more parts coming, and for you personally, I want you to make sure you do your research. Okay, now you do have some homework if this is a path you want to go down. I'm happy to talk to you or anything. Get in touch with us if you have any questions. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm just really passionate about precious metals and what they offer as part of our asset column. But research is important. You need to decide on your strategy. Are you in a position to start putting 5 or 10% of your assets or your net worth into precious metals? If you are, then now might be a time to get started and do that serious research and strategy. And finally, if that is the point, let's take some action. We'll talk about in part 2 a bit more about maybe if you're not ready quite yet, how you might be able to benefit from the way Kelly and I buy our gold at the moment, but we'll get into that in the next series, next part, sorry. Okay guys, well that's it for me right now. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Just keep reading the newsletter each week. Really appreciate your if you're a subscriber. If you're not, I've got a link below this video on how to subscribe to the newsletter. Lots of good information coming each week. I'm sure you've probably got 50 newsletters you get each week, but would really appreciate you checking that out and being a part of this journey with us. And apart from that, guys, that's it. So enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are and whenever you're listening to this, and really appreciate it. So have a great day. Thanks.